In the heart of a bustling Nigerian village nestled between misty hills and ancient baobab trees, where the air hummed with the whispers of forgotten ancestors and the fervent echoes of Sunday sermons, a scandal was brewing that would shatter the fragile veil between faith and folklore. Imagine this. A revered pastor, known for his thunderous voice that could summon divine fire from the heavens, entangled in forbidden romance with the daughter of the village's most enigmatic native doctor, a man whose potions could cure the incurable and whose rituals danced on the edge of the supernatural. What happened next? Buckle up, because this tale twists deeper than the roots of the iroko tree, revealing secrets that blur the lines between miracle and curse. Pastor Ezekiel Okoro was a man of impeccable stature, his crisp white suits gleaming under the equatorial sun as he led his flock at the Redeemed Glory Church. With a Bible in one hand and a microphone in the other, he preached against the pagan ways of the old world, decrying the native doctors as charlatans who toyed with dark forces. The villagers flocked to him, drawn by his charisma and the rumors of healings. Blind eyes seeing, lame legs walking. But beneath his holy facade lay a vulnerability, a loneliness that gnawed at him since his wife's untimely death 5 years prior. Enter Adanna, the ethereal daughter of Chief Okafor, the village's esteemed native doctor. At 22, she was a vision of quiet rebellion, her skin glowing like polished ebony, her eyes holding the depth of ancient rivers. Adanna assisted her father in his shrine, mixing herbs and chanting incantations passed down through generations. She was no stranger to skepticism. The churchgoers whispered about her witchcraft, but she carried herself with a grace that silenced doubters. Yet fate, or perhaps something more sinister, drew her to Pastor Ezekiel during a village festival. It started innocently. A shared glance across the bonfire, a conversation about healing that bridged their worlds. He saw in her a spark of genuine spirituality. She saw in him a man burdened by his own righteousness. Their meetings grew clandestine, stolen moments in the shadowed groves where mango trees bore witness. Ezekiel justified it as ministering to a lost soul, but passion overtook piety. One fateful night, under a canopy of stars that seemed to wink knowingly, their union crossed an irreversible threshold. Adanna discovered her pregnancy weeks later, her body blooming with life even as dread coiled in her gut. She confided in her father, Chief Okafor, whose face darkened like a storm cloud. "This child," he murmured, consulting his oracle bones, "carries the blood of 2 worlds. It will either unite us or destroy everything." Word spread like wildfire through the village. Whispers in the market, gasps in the pews. Pastor Ezekiel denied it at first, thundering from the pulpit about Satan's lies. But Adanna's swelling belly was evidence no sermon could erase. The congregation splintered. Some stood by their pastor, calling it a test of faith. Others defected, seeking solace in Chief Okafor's shrine. Tensions escalated when strange occurrences began. Church members falling ill with ailments no prayer could heal, only Okafor's herbs providing relief. Was it coincidence, or had the native doctor unleashed a subtle vengeance? As the months passed, Adanna's pregnancy advanced amid growing chaos. Ezekiel, tormented by guilt, sought reconciliation, sneaking to shrine under cover of night. But on one such visit, he stumbled upon a ritual in progress. Okafor, surrounded by flickering candles and pungent incense, invoking spirits to protect the lineage. Ezekiel interrupted, demanding the truth about the child. Okafor's eyes gleamed with otherworldly knowledge. "Your seed has awakened something ancient," he revealed. "This baby isn't just human. It's a bridge to the gods, and the price of your transgression is coming due." That very night, as thunder cracked the sky, Adanna went into labor prematurely. The village midwife rushed to her side, but complications arose. Bleeding that wouldn't stop, visions that plagued Adanna's mind as shadowy figures circling the unborn child. Ezekiel burst in, Bible clutched like a talisman, praying fervently while Okafor chanted counterincantations, their voices clashing like warring storms. The room filled with an eerie glow, and suddenly, the baby's cry pierced the air. Not a normal wail, but a sound that echoed with unnatural resonance, shaking the walls and extinguishing every flame. What emerged from Adanna wasn't just a newborn. Its eyes opened wide, revealing irises that shimmered with iridescent light, as if holding stars within. The villagers who gathered outside felt a collective shiver, for in that moment, prophecies long dormant began to stir. But as the child drew its first breath, a greater shock unfolded. Chief Okafor collapsed, clutching his chest, his life force seemingly siphoned away. Ezekiel, staring at the infant in horror, realized a true curse. The baby was no ordinary heir, but a vessel for something far more powerful, and its birth had just ignited a chain of events that would upend the village forever. Adanna, weak but defiant, cradled her child, whispering, "What have we unleashed?" As dawn broke, strange omens appeared. Crops withering in fields untouched by drought, animals speaking in human tongues, and shadows that move of their own accord. Ezekiel, now bound to his fate, vowed to protect them. But unknown to him, Adanna's visions revealed a darker truth. The child was destined to choose between the pastor's God and the native spirits, and that choice would demand a sacrifice no one could foresee. Meanwhile, in the depths of the shrine, Okafor's spirit lingered, plotting from beyond the veil, and as the village descended into paranoia, a mysterious stranger arrived at the church gates, claiming to be a long-lost relative with secrets that could unravel everything. The stranger stood silhouetted against the crimson dawn, his long traveling coat dusted with red earth from distant roads. He was tall, lean, with skin the color of burnt mahogany and a face etched by years that no one in the village could quite place. A single cowrie shell necklace hung at his throat, glinting as he moved. When he spoke, his voice carried the cadence of rivers and forests long forgotten. "I am Chaik," he announced to the startled ushers at the church gate, "son of Okafor's younger brother, blood of the shrine, and I have come for the child." Whispers exploded like dry leaves in harmattan wind. How could this be? Chief Okafor had never spoken of a brother, let alone a nephew who had vanished into the cities decades ago. Yet the cowrie necklace was unmistakable. Only direct descendants of the lineage wore one knotted in that precise pattern. Pastor Ezekiel, still cradling the newborn whose eyes shimmered unnaturally, felt ice crawl down his spine. Adanna, pale and sweating on her mat, lifted her head weakly. "He is telling the truth," she rasped. "Father spoke of him once, the one who rejected the gods and fled to Lagos." Chaik stepped forward, ignoring the hostile stares, and knelt beside Adanna. He placed a hand on the baby's forehead, and the child quieted instantly, the eerie glow in its eyes dimming to something almost human. "The ancestors have marked him," Chaik murmured. "His name must be chosen tonight, or the balance will tip." Ezekiel bristled, clutching his Bible tighter. This child will be baptized in the name of Jesus Christ. No pagan naming ceremony will touch him. But even as he spoke, the ground trembled faintly, as if the earth itself disagreed. By midday, the village was called into division. Elders gathered under the sacred iroko tree, arguing fiercely. Some insisted the child belonged to the shrine. Others swore allegiance to the church. Women carried water pots slower than usual, straining to overhear conversations. Children dared one another to sneak closer to Adanna's hut, hoping to glimpse the baby whose cry had silenced thunder. Strange phenomena multiplied. A goat gave birth to twins with one head and two bodies. The river that supplied the village turned milky white for an hour, and every mirror in the pastor's house cracked in perfect spiderwebs without falling. Chaik moved through the chaos with calm authority, visiting homes, speaking softly, reminding people of oaths their grandparents had sworn to the old gods. Many listened. By evening, a crowd had gathered outside the shrine, once abandoned by churchgoers, now alive with drumming and the scent of fresh palm wine. Torches flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to ride independently. Ezekiel watched from a distance, torn between rage and fear. He had prayed all day, but the heavens remained stubbornly silent. No voice, no vision, only an oppressive weight on his chest. Adanna, carried on a woven mat by her cousins, arrived at the shrine against Ezekiel's protests. She was too weak to walk, yet her eyes burned with determination. "The child needs both worlds," she told the pastor when he tried to stop her. "Deny it and we all perish." Chaik took the infant from her arms and presented him to the assembled villagers. The drums ceased. In the sudden hush, Chaik poured libation, calling on the ancestors by names long forbidden in church. Then, to everyone's shock, he turned to Ezekiel. "Pastor, come." The gods demand balance. Speak your blessing or the child will tear the veil. Ezekiel hesitated, feeling the eyes of his remaining congregation upon him. If he refused, he would lose them forever. If he complied, he betrayed everything he preached. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Finally, he stepped forward, Bible open, voice trembling. In the name of Jesus, I bless this child and pray for God's mercy on us all. A collective gasp rose as lightning, though there was not a cloud in the sky, flashed directly above the shrine, illuminating the baby's face. For a heartbeat, the infant's features shifted. One moment an ordinary newborn, the next an ancient visage with eyes deep as eternity. The naming began. Chaik declared the child's shrine name, Adanna, meaning father's heart, for he carried the heart of both lineages. But Adanna, summoning strength from depths unknown, added softly, and his church name shall be Emmanuel, God with us. The moment the dual names left her lips, wind roared through the village, extinguishing every torch yet harming no one. When calm returned, the baby slept peacefully, the unnatural glow gone, for now. That night, as families retreated to their compounds, Chaik sought out Ezekiel in the darkened church. The two men sat among empty pews lit only by moonlight streaming through stained-glass windows. You think this is over, Chaik said quietly. It has only begun. The child is a doorway. Force is older than your God, and my ancestors are watching. Some want the door open wide. Others want it sealed forever. Ezekiel's voice cracked. Then what must we do? Chaik leaned closer. Protect him until he is 7 years old. On his 7th birthday, he will dream the choosing dream. Whatever path he selects in that dream will bind this world and the next. Ezekiel wanted to argue, to declare faith triumphant, but exhaustion and doubt silenced him. Instead, he asked, "Why did you return now after all these years?" Chaik's smile was sad. "Because the oracle bones showed me my uncle's death the very night it happened. And because I was once like you, running from destiny. I studied in universities, wore suits, mocked the old ways. But destiny finds you." He placed a small leather pouch in Ezekiel's hand. Inside are seeds from the tree of life that grows behind the shrine. Plant one at each corner of your church. They will grow overnight and shield the boy from lesser spirits until the time comes. Against every instinct, Ezekiel accepted the pouch. When he stepped outside hours later, he found the village eerily quiet. No dogs barked, no cricket sang, only the soft rustle of something massive moving through the bush beyond the houses. He hurried home, heart pounding. Weeks turned to months. The child, Adanna Emmanuel, grew at an unnatural pace, walking at 4 months, speaking full sentences by his first year. Villagers brought gifts, yams from farmers, cloth from weavers, money from traders. The church and shrine coexisted in uneasy truce, both claiming the boy. Adanna recovered slowly, her beauty sharpened by suffering, and she moved between the two worlds with increasing ease, teaching her son Bible stories in the morning and folk tales at night. Ezekiel watched her with a mixture of love and torment, knowing their sin had birthed something beyond comprehension. Chaik remained, building a small hut near the shrine, training young boys in herb lore while attending Sunday service without fail. Rumors swirled that he performed secret rituals at midnight, yet no one could prove harm. Strange travelers began appearing, herbalists from the east, priests from the north, even a pale woman with foreign accent who claimed to be a researcher of spiritual anomalies. All sought audience with the child, and all left unsatisfied, turned away by an invisible barrier that manifested as sudden illness or lost directions. On the eve of Adanna Emmanuel's 3rd birthday, disaster struck. A fire erupted in the market, consuming stalls in minutes despite buckets of water thrown by dozens. Screams filled the air as flames leaped unnaturally high, forming shapes that resembled writhing serpents. By the time it was contained, half the village's trade was ash. Fingers pointed everywhere. Angry gods, jealous pastors, rival villages. But Adanna, holding her son close, saw in his eyes a flicker of recognition. That night, the boy spoke his first prophecy. "Fire came to warn," he said in a voice too deep for a child. "Next comes water, then blood. unless the two fathers stand together. Ezekiel and Chike met at dawn on a hill overlooking the village. Below them, smoke still curled from blackened timbers. "He called us both father," Ezekiel whispered, stunned. Chike nodded grimly. "The veil thins. Forces are testing the doorway. We must prepare." They clasped hands, an unholy alliance born necessity, and vowed to train the boy together. Scripture and incantation, prayer and potion, faith and fear. As the fourth year approached, Obene Manuel began vanishing for hours, only to be found sitting alone beneath the iroko tree, conversing with empty air. When asked who he spoke to, he answered simply, "The ones waiting." Animals followed him. Birds perched on his shoulders. Monkeys brought him fruits. Even a leopard was once seen lying tame at his feet. The village prospered strangely. Crops yielded triple harvests. Sick children recovered overnight. But prosperity came laced with dread. Mothers clutched their own babies tighter. Elders dreamed the same dream. A child standing between light and shadow, hand outstretched to something vast approaching from beyond the stars. One moonless night, Adanna woke screaming. She had seen the choosing dream early, though the boy was only 5. In it, Obene Manuel stood on a cliff between two thrones, one of radiant light, one of living darkness. Behind each throne waited armies of unimaginable beings. The child turned to her and asked, "Mama, which one should I choose?" Before she could answer, hands, neither human nor spirit, reached from both sides to pull them apart. She ran to Ezekiel and Chike, voice breaking as she recounted the vision. Their faces paled. "The forces grow impatient," Chike said. "They will try to force the choice before he is ready." From that night, the attacks began. Shadows detached from walls and lunged at the boy, only to dissolve when Ezekiel prayed or Chike chanted. Dreams plagued villagers, showing apocalyptic visions of flood and fire. A faction formed in secret, led by a deacon who had always resented Ezekiel's authority, whispering that the child must be removed for the village's safety. Another faction, led by Okafor's former apprentices, argued the boy must be fully surrendered to the old gods. Both groups watched, waited, plotted. On the morning of his 6th birthday, Obene Manuel walked alone to the river and stood staring into the current for hours. When Adanna found him, he was tracing symbols in the mud, symbols neither she nor Chike nor Ezekiel recognized, yet which made their skin crawl with ancient power. That evening, as preparations began for what everyone knew would be the final year of waiting, a new stranger arrived. This one wore the robes of a high-ranking bishop from the city diocese, flanked by armed police. He carried a letter sealed with official wax declaring that reports of occult practices and child endangerment had reached authorities. The bishop demanded custody of the child for a protective evaluation. Ezekiel met him at the church door, flanked by Chike, an image that would have been impossible years earlier. Adanna stood behind them, holding her son's hand. The boy looked up at the bishop with those star-filled eyes and spoke words that froze every heart. "You come too late, uncle of lies. The doorway opens tonight." Thunder rolled though the sky was clear. The bishop's confident smile faltered. And in the distance, something vast began to move through the forest, bending trees without wind, its footfalls shaking the earth like approaching judgment. The true battle for Obene Manuel's soul and for the fate of two worlds was only just beginning. The bishop's entourage froze as Obene Manuel's words hung in the air like a verdict from the gods themselves. The armed policemen shifted uneasily, their rifles suddenly feeling like toys against the primordial rumble approaching through the forest. Trees bowed and snapped in its wake, not from wind but from the sheer weight of presence. Ezekiel felt his knees buckle. Chike's hand steadied him, their unlikely brotherhood forged in fire, now facing its ultimate test. Adanna pulled her son close, whispering prayers that blended Igbo incantations with fragments of psalms, her voice a fragile thread, holding sanity together. Night fell abruptly, as if the sun itself fled in terror. Torches were lit, but their flames burned blue and cold. The village gathered in the open space between church and shrine, an unspoken truce drawing every soul there. Factions dissolved in the face of the unknown. Even the secret plotters emerged, faces pale, whispering apologies to the night. Obina Emmanuel stood at the center, no longer a child, but something timeless wearing a child's form. His eyes blazed with constellations, and when he spoke again, his voice resonated in every chest, layered with echoes from realms unseen. "The doorway opens because you forced it," he said, gazing at the bishop, whose letter fluttered from nerveless fingers. "Greed, fear, division, you invited them." The ground split gently, not destructively, forming a perfect circle around the boy. From the cracks rose luminous mist, carrying sense of ocean depths and starless voids. Shapes coalesced within, beings of radiant wings and others of coiling shadow, neither angelic nor demonic, but something far older, watchers from before creation's dawn. The bishop stammered, "This is blasphemy. We must exorcise." But his words choked off as invisible force lifted him, depositing him gently but firmly outside the circle. The police followed, weapons clattering uselessly. No one was harmed. The entities simply removed those who carried judgment instead of wonder. Ezekiel stepped forward, heart pounding yet strangely calm. "What must we do, my son?" The boy, no, the vessel, turned to him with infinite tenderness. "Not your son alone, father of faith. Not Chikes alone, father of roots. I am the bridge you both built in love and broke in fear. Tonight, I choose, not for myself, but for all of you." Chike knelt, tears carving paths through dust on his cheeks. "We failed you. We turned miracle into weapon." Adanna joined him, pressing her forehead to the earth. One by one, villagers followed until every knee bent, not in worship of the child, but in surrender to the greater mystery they had all profaned through division. Obina Emmanuel raised his small hands. The approaching entity breached the trilene, revealing itself. Not monster, but majesty, a colossal figure woven of light and night intertwined, face shifting between every ancestor who had ever lived and every saint ever prayed to. Its voice was thunder wrapped in velvet. The child was sent to heal the ancient wound, the rift between seen and unseen, between new faith and old knowing. Humanity chose separation. Now choose again. Silence stretched eternal. Then Obina spoke the words that would echo through generations. "I choose unity." Light exploded, not blinding, but embracing. Every villager felt memories not their own, ancestors dancing around fires, while others knelt in cathedrals. Spirits and angels sharing the same sky, love as the only true power bridging worlds. Painful truths surfaced. Ezekiel's pride, Chike's hidden resentment, Adanna's quiet despair, the bishop's ambition. But they dissolved in waves of forgiveness that needed no words. When vision cleared, the colossal being had vanished. The cracks in the earth sealed, leaving fertile soil where flowers bloomed instantly, luminescent under moonlight. Obina Emmanuel stood transformed, still a child in form, but radiating quiet authority. His eyes now held gentle starlight, rather than overwhelming galaxies. He walked to Ezekiel and Chike, placing one tiny hand in each of theirs. "The doorway closes," he said softly, "but the bridge remains. In you, in all of you." Years passed like dream sequences. The village, now called Omachukwu, Children of God, became a place of pilgrimage. Church and shrine merged into one beautiful compound where Sunday services incorporated drumming and libations, where Bible studies explored parallels with ancient wisdom. Ezekiel and Chike grew old together, teaching side by side, their once scandalous union now legendary as a love that birthed salvation. Adanna, radiant in middle age, led women's circles blending healing herbs with faith healing, her stories drawing tears and laughter in equal measure. Obina Emmanuel himself chose a simple life. He never performed grand miracles, yet wherever he walked, peace followed. Barren women conceived after his blessing, warring factions reconciled after sharing meals at his table. Strangers arrived broken and left whole. When asked about that fateful night, he would smile mysteriously and say, "Loved one, that's all." On the 20th anniversary, thousands gathered beneath the great iroko, now impossibly vast, its roots entwining both church and former shrine foundations. Obina, now a young man of striking beauty, carrying both parents' features, stood before them. Ezekiel and Chike flanked him, white-haired but strong. Adanna sat nearby, eyes shining with pride. He spoke simply. The worlds were never separate. You only believed they were. Live as if heaven and earth kiss with every breath. Love without fear. Forgive without condition. This is the only magic that endures. As he finished, the sky ignited, not with lightning, but with auroras never before seen in equatorial Africa. Colors danced in impossible patterns, forming images, ancestors and saints embracing, children of every tribe playing together. The colossal being from that night, nodding approval before dissolving into starlight. The crowd wept openly. Some fell to their knees. Others danced. Music arose spontaneously, gospels merging with traditional rhythms into something transcendent. In that moment, every heart knew the truth. The scandal that began with forbidden passion had birthed not curse, but the greatest blessing, a living demonstration that love, when brave enough to cross every divide, redeems everything. And somewhere beyond the veil, the watchers smiled, their long vigil ended. The bridge held. The worlds breathed as one. But even as celebration peaked, Obinna's gaze lifted to the stars. A new light flickered there, distant, curious, approaching slowly across vast emptiness. His smile deepened with secret knowing. The story wasn't ending. It was evolving. For in healing one village, he had sent ripples across creation itself. Other rifts awaited. Other bridges needed building. He squeezed his parents' hands, both sets, and whispered so only they could hear. Ready for the next journey? Ezekiel chuckled through tears. With you? Always. Chike nodded, eyes bright. The ancestors walk with us. Adanna laughed, the sound like bells across water, and God smiles upon it all. Together, the family stepped into the dancing crowd, ordinary yet extraordinary, human yet divine. The auroras swirled overhead, painting promises across the night sky. Somewhere, a new child was being born under similar stars, carrying similar light. The work continued. Love's scandalous, magnificent triumph had only just begun to change the world.